So very good morning to Ann Widdecombe. Ann, very nice to see you again. How are you?
Morning, I'm very well, thank you. Back
Excellent.
from Kenya.
Back from Kenya. Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll catch up on what Kenya was like in a minute because, first of all, we must press on with this story on the front page of the Times, a survey of clergy who basically say they don't believe Britain to be a Christian nation anymore.
Well, it hasn't been for some time, but if you actually look carefully at that survey, some 64% of those surveyed, and it's a very small number of the number of priests overall, but some 64% of them actually say they think that it is a Christian country culturally, but not spiritually. And,
Yes.
and that is exactly how I see it. We've got an enormous Christian history and Christian culture, which even the woke brigade can't actually get rid of because it's just there.
Right.
But spiritually speaking, no, it hasn't been a Christian country for a very long time. There's nothing new about that. We find street preachers are arrested, for example,
Yes.
in this country. We are, for doing nothing more sometimes than reading out a passage from the Bible.
Yeah.
Children are no longer taught a scripture at school in the way that they used to be. And so, no, it's not a Christian country. We know that.
No, I think my children, most recently in secondary school in this country, were taught about all faiths and all religions. They weren't taught one religion, which I suppose you could say is no harm in that. But you're absolutely right. But the church perhaps is to blame for some of that as well, isn't it? Because the church has failed in its duty to maintain sort of its mission, if you like, because the church is one of the most woke organisations on the planet. If you look at the Archbishop of Canterbury and some of the stuff that he comes out with, I'm pretty sure he once said he wasn't sure if he believed in God.
I'm not sure if he put it quite that far. At least I do sincerely hope not, because if so, he shouldn't be Archbishop of Canterbury. It would be something like that, a sketch from Yes Prime Minister or something. But you are right that the church has completely failed in its duty to preach the gospel and to present a very clear lead. Now, when I say the church, I'm talking about the established church. I'm talking about the Church of England. And one of the reasons that I left it, about 30 years ago now, one of the reasons that I actually left it was because it no longer seemed to know what it thought about anything. Well, so it can't give a lead unless it's got a clear position to start with.
That is the problem. And when you left it, was that when you became a Catholic, or was that?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what do you make of the way that works? Because they've got, I suppose, a more structured hierarchy where you've got the Pope in Rome sitting there in the Vatican making all sorts of pronouncements that some people might think are a bit old-fashioned but are a bit more traditional.
Well, the whole point of Catholic teaching is that something can be right but very unpopular. It can be wrong and very popular. And so you don't go by popularity, you go by what is right and what is wrong. There is very clear doctrinal teaching in the church, which hasn't changed for 2,000 years.
Yes. And I mean, I think you probably would be right to say, wouldn't you, that one of the confusing pieces of living in a modern Britain is that right and wrong doesn't really seem to be something which troubles many people. That
is a direct result of the decline of Christianity. I mean, if you don't believe that you're going to be held to account for what you do, if you don't believe that there is somebody taking note, if you don't believe that there's a higher authority to answer to, then why? I mean, why not do things to please yourself? But which aren't necessarily to the good of anybody else. I mean, why not do it if you don't believe that there is something beyond this earth?
Yes.
Why not go forward?
Certainly, for most crimes at the moment, it would seem, there's not much punishment on earth for them, certainly not in Britain. And so, as you say, if there is no higher authority that's going to take care of it, then you're getting away with it.
Well, of course. If you don't believe that anybody's watching what you're doing, there is no good reason to resist temptation. As I say, you might as well say, if this earth is all there is, then I'll get everything I can while I'm here. And that, of course, is the exact opposite of Christianity. But I will take issue with one thing you said in your introduction. You said you thought religion had been at the root of many ills. It's not religion. It's what the people who follow that religion do.
Well, perhaps in the name of religion, that's the problem, and I shall concede that. This from Mick in Wallington. Welbein is clergy approved, go woke, go broke. He is the Gerald Ratner of Christianity, which is quite funny. But looking at the papers this morning, Anne, and I'm going to come to your column in a minute, which is in the Daily Express today, if anybody hasn't seen it. The picture on the front page of the Times of a man at Notting Hill Carnival wielding a massive zombie knife in broad daylight in the middle of London on a Monday sort of afternoon is extraordinary for me. I mean, we've both seen plenty of things in our lifetimes, I'm sure. I don't think I've quite ever seen such a brazen and completely lawless picture. A photograph of a man who clearly has no worries about being identified. He's not wearing any kind of face covering. This is a guy who has nothing to fear, nothing to lose, and if he had contacted somebody with that zombie knife, he would have chopped their arm off.
Well, he would. One can only hope that that wasn't what he intended to do. But no, I mean, what is he to fear? The police generally treat the Notting Hill Carnival with a very light hand. For example, it's rife with drugs, and the police very, very seldom take any action in that respect. And I'm afraid that with knife crime in general, never mind machetes at the carnival, knife crime in general is fueled by the belief that people have that when they put a knife in their pocket or in their handbag, when they go out of doors with a knife, no consequences will ensue. That is their belief, and, they're right.
Well, they are. The police, of course, ironically, today are issuing, and the government are issuing instructions to suggest that these knives will now be, and here's some footage, I think, of Notting Hill now. I mean, it's basically a running battle. I put it to Susan Hall yesterday, the prospective mayoral candidate for the Tory party for London, that they should ban the Notting Hill Carnival, to which she said, oh, well, lots of people really like it. Well, I don't think you can enjoy watching bands of young men sort of marauding through the streets wielding massive machetes, can you?
Well, of course you can't, but that isn't, the be-all and the end-all of the Notting Hill Carnival. I would be in favour of very stringent, if you like, almost over-the-top policing of the carnival to see if that actually does make a difference. And if it doesn't, then I think your rather cataclysmic view that it should be banned altogether is worth looking at. But I'd rather not do that immediately because it is a big feature of London. It's something a lot of people innocently enjoy.
Well, they do on maybe a Sunday, but on the Monday it turns into sort of carnage. And the Police Federation themselves came out yesterday and said that they dread policing the event. So I don't think they'd be too keen to be told you now have to police it even more.
Well, one of the reasons I think they dread policing the event is because they're not expected to police. And I think that, we've got to make it very clear that that's exactly what we expect, that they are expected to take action against drugs, that they are expected to take action against knives. But to go down the route that's now been suggested, you ban the possession of machetes. Well, people who've got machetes as souvenirs, locked away in some cupboard will give them up. And the people who are using them for lawless purposes will not.
Right. Well, I was told as well that this morning there was an interview, I think, on Julie Hartley-Brewer's show, where apparently if you go onto the internet to buy a machete, I presume they're going to try and stop that now, but if you do at the moment, they also direct you to a place where you can buy balaclava. Now, I can't imagine why you would want a balaclava and a machete, but it sounds like pretty lawless activity to me.
Well, it sounds like something that should and could very easily be banned.
Yes, absolutely right. Stay where you are, Anne, because I've got lots to talk to you about, including Nadine Dorries and Sir Keir Starmer as well.